Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we are going to be going over the 2024 Chevy Silverado EV. We have a bunch to talk about in today's video, so first off we're going to get into the official specs, then we're going to get into why this truck matters, and most importantly, my thoughts, right? No, just kidding, they're not the most important thing, the specs are the most important thing, I'm just joking. But anyways, let's just pop right into the video. Now let's get into the specs with this new Silverado EV, pretty crazy stuff. So first off, there's going to be a massive swing with the packages. There's going to be anything from a WT, which stands for work truck, all the way up to the RST, which is the fully loaded one. Kind of confusing, I understand, because right now the RST is kind of like a value package with the Silverado, but with the EV version, the RST is going to be the fully loaded version of the truck. Now, what Chevy is shooting for is 400 miles of range with this truck. That's to compete against Ford and Tesla and Rivian, and so that's kind of what they're going for, is 400 miles of range. Now, what the power outputs are going to be is pretty crazy. So with the work truck, again, the base model, 510 horsepower, 615 pound-feet of torque. So the base model EV Silverado is going to have more power and more torque than what you can get in any Silverado 1500 right now, unless you buy a Yanko Silverado, but it's a completely different truck. Now, the loaded up RST is going to have a wide open Watts mode, which is called the WOW mode, right? Funny. Which is going to give it 664 horsepower and 780 pound-feet of torque. Chevy hasn't released what the base power figure is going to be when you're just normally driving around town, but they're claiming that this will give the truck a 0 to 60 of less than 4.5 seconds, which they're just trying to beat the Ford F-150 Lightning basically with the acceleration is what Chevy's trying to do with this. Now, aside from that, basically, the truck is going to be able to have the fast charging like the Hummer, where you can add an extra 100 miles of range in 10 minutes, which is pretty cool. And there's going to be some different things for the different packages with the trucks, just like what you get right now in terms of the exterior bits. So like the RST is apparently going to have 24-inch wheels, which we'll see if that, because that's on the concept truck right now, we'll see if that actually makes it into production, because the 24-inch wheels is just craziness. But the work truck's going to come with something more reasonable, like 17 or 18-inch wheels. And so I imagine that the work truck might, well, depending on the tire and the wheel design and everything, could potentially get more range than the RST with the 24s. Again, depending on design and everything, because the pictures right here, the wheels look, I mean, they're mostly closed off, but they look somewhat open. From a towing capacity perspective, it's supposed to be able to tow 10,000 pounds, and payload is supposed to be, you know, competitive with a half-ton truck, so that's all good. And then other exterior bits, you guys can see the styling, pretty crazy. Looks like an Avalanche, which is interesting. Chevy says that that's not what they were necessarily going for, but a lot of people have been asking for Chevy to bring back the Avalanche, and this is kind of an Avalanche-looking truck, but it's electric, so yeah. Overall, it's interesting, and that's just something with Chevy styling, right? Whenever they release a new vehicle, it's always kind of like, this is weird. I've seen some comments, people saying this is just horribly ugly. I don't know if I share that sentiment. I think that it's, I wouldn't say it's beautiful, but it's interesting. It's definitely eye-catching. Especially the front end with kind of like the light bar, again, they're kind of copying the Lightning with that a little bit. The side profile definitely looks like Avalanche, 100%. And then the rear with the taillights, they're, you know, Chevy's kind of taillight design. It's an interesting truck. You can tell that the way that it's shaped is for aerodynamic purposes, right? But yeah, moving on from that, it's going to have Chevy's, you know, trick tailgate, right, where it has like the tailgate step, which is pretty cool. It's also going to have a frunk, right? That's most electric vehicles will have that, and so that's pretty cool. And I guess the thing that I forgot to mention on the specs earlier is there will be an available 200 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's what the 400 miles of range that I discussed earlier. So sorry that I didn't bring that up, but we talked about it now. Aside from that, in terms of the interior of the truck, it looks like it's getting all the same updates that you have with the new Silverado. And it looks like it's taking a lot of stuff from the Hummer EV as well from an interior perspective. So you can see, you guys will see the pictures, nice materials, giant infotainment system, giant digital gauge cluster, lots of stuff happening there. Apparently the center screen is 17 inches or something, just absolutely mind-blowing. So yeah, it's going to have a super techy interior, nice materials than what you have with the current Silverado. Again, somewhat similar to what you will see when I review the 2022 Silverado that's been refreshed. That's basically what you'll see with this EV truck. Now, here's the big kicker, spec-wise. pricing is going to start at like under $40,000, around $40,000, under $40,000. The fully loaded truck is going to be $107,000 for the starting price for the RST. So pretty expensive. Now let's get into why this is important and then my thoughts. Okay, so first off, the reason why this is important obviously is because we are finally getting more competition in this EV truck segment, right? Ford is one of the early adopters, so you know they're getting the Lightning out before most other manufacturers. Rivian has the R1T, but I don't really consider that truck to be too much competition because its starting price is so high. It's over $70,000 for the starting price, and it's not very big. It's in terms of its size, and it's kind of like this super niche, you know, super truck type thing from a small manufacturer. It's not from a mainstream manufacturer. So you're going to see some of them out on the road, but not a massive amount. Tesla Cybertruck, once they actually get it out, I'll be able to talk about it more, but all I have to say is I just want to see a truck on the road. I just want to see, you know, people taking delivery of those. So I won't talk too much about Tesla either. But yeah, the F-150 Lightning is kind of the main one. And so we're going to have another big American brand that is releasing an EV truck to compete against the F-150 Lightning. And so just more competition is going to be better for everyone, because I'm sure by 2024 we'll see improvements with the Lightning to make it more competitive with the Silverado. I'm not saying the current Lightning isn't competitive, but right, the Silverado is trying to beat the Lightning, so then Ford will do some stuff with the Lightning to make it beat the Silverado, and it'll be good for everyone because we'll get cooler and cooler trucks. And also we have the new Ram 1500 EV that's coming out. That one, they said 2024 as well, so we're going to have a bunch of cool EV trucks in 2024 is what it sounds like. So yeah, it's super important, right? Because the EV truck segment is only growing, and it's important every single time there's a new player, especially when it's a big manufacturer like GM. And so yeah, that's the cool part. Now my personal opinions on this truck. Okay, so exterior wise, I think it's, you know, it's kind of like most electric vehicles where you just have an ugly car because of aerodynamics, and so it's kind of like function over form, right? And so again, it's not pretty. I'm okay with it. I bet in person it's going to look a little bit better, but I don't share the same sentiment of some people where they're saying it's so ugly, it's undrivable, and this and that. I don't think that. I think that it's a weird looking vehicle, that's for sure. In terms of the specs of the truck, it sounds good, right? The 400 miles of range, the power outputs, the wow mode, all that sounds really good to me. And the features that this has, that sounds good as well, right? Having really nice interior features, tons of tech features, you know, the new tailgate, all that kind of stuff. The only thing that concerns me is the price. A fully loaded F-150 Lightning is about $90,000 starting price. This is like $20,000 more than that. And so it kind of puts a fully loaded EV Silverado in weird territory. It's kind of stepping on the toes of the new Hummer EV. And I feel like if someone's going to spend over $100,000 on an electric pickup truck, if they're comparing between, you know, a Silverado and a Hummer, they're going to get the Hummer. And so I think that GM is kind of pricing this a little bit too high, because now it's kind of like stepping on the toes of another vehicle that they're making. And that's just my personal opinion. I think that, and I think a lot of you will agree with me, the Hummer looks a lot better stylistically, and it obviously has a much bigger name and everything. And so it's like, again, if I was going to spend that much money on an electric truck, I'm going to get the one that is from a cooler brand and everything. But again, that's just my personal opinion. And then the other thing, right, is just being competitive with Ford, right? They're trying to beat Ford in all these specs, but then if it's more expensive than the Ford, then people are still going to go and buy the Ford, because it's like, oh, the 0 to 60 is 0.1 second faster, but I can save 20 grand, right? I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, that's the only thing that kind of shakes things up for me a little bit. And then I guess the other thing to mention is Ford made the Lightning look just like a regular F-150, and this, on the other hand, doesn't look like a regular Silverado. And so I think that maybe, I mean, we still have 2 more years till they release this truck. Maybe they can do a little bit more to make it look a little bit more normal. I mean, that's just for the people that think it's ugly. I'm okay with it, but I can kind of understand that sentiment. And so that could be something that GM could work on. But overall, I'm excited for it. I think it's a pretty cool truck. I think that it's cool to have competition. I'm a little bit worried about the pricing. I'm a little bit worried about the styling on it. But we'll see the changes as they come with this new truck. And you know what? You guys know that I do those like big comparisons between Ram, Ford, and Chevy. And it'll be interesting in 2024 when I do those comparisons. And all the trucks are electric, right? So, yeah, it'll be funny. But anyways, that's going to sum things up for today's video. I want you guys to let me know what you think about this new Silverado EV if you plan on getting one. And yeah, I'll see all of you in the next video.